Okay, so in this video, we are going to jump straight into the content that makes up Unit 1, Introduction to Economics, where we will introduce some basic terms and also introduce the economic narrative that forms the basis of why we study economics in the first place. So the first term I wanted to introduce was factors of production, which will continually come up throughout the syllabus. It will become second nature to you as to what these are, but basically they are the inputs that go into making goods and services. In other words, they're things used to make other things. And there are four that we need to know. The first being land. Now, land refers to both the literal land as well as other natural environments such as lakes and oceans, and this factor of production also includes the resources derived from the land, such as oil that can be extracted, or crops grown through agriculture, or fish caught from the ocean. So in a general sense, the factor of production, land, refers to natural resources. The second one is labor, which refers to workers and the human effort and endeavor that goes into making a particular good. And the third one is capital. And capital is the physical, manufactured resources that go into producing a good. It includes things like machinery and infrastructure, and it is slightly unique because it is a produced factor of production that you purchase with money. And lastly is entrepreneurship, which is the skill and ability to bring all the other factors of production together in order to produce the good. And this includes both that ability to coordinate and assemble the other factors of production, and as well as incurring of that risk of those decisions. Like the way a CEO of a company would take on the biggest risk of the company failing. So I tried to think of an acronym for this. The only one I could think of was CELL, which I thought made sense because cells make up our body and then factors of production make up goods. So yeah, if that helps you memorize, that's good. And a small real-life example of factors of production making up a good is I had a Starbucks coffee today. So in terms of breaking down that good into factors of production, the soil and the coffee beans grown from it would be part of the factor of production, land. The farmers that grew the coffee beans as well as the barista that made the coffee for me would be included in labor. The tractor at the farm, roads used to transport the coffee, as well as the coffee machine would all be included in capital, and that effort of the CEO of Starbucks that would be included in entrepreneurship. So that's a small breakdown of how factors of production make up a particular good. So now that we have introduced factors of production, which is basically the resources we need to make things, we are faced with a problem, which forms the basis of the economic narrative. So, we have a problem, and the problem is that we're greedy. In economics, we assume that humans have unlimited needs and wants, and that conflicts with the fact that our world has limited resources, limited factors of production. So we can't make and consume everything we want, and this creates the issue of scarcity, which is the big economic problem. And with this problem of scarcity, we're now faced with the dilemma of choice. Since you can't make and consume everything within our limited resources, we now have to make choices as to what we're going to produce instead of something else. So, this problem of choice arises, and let's take this example with Play-Doh, where we have limited resources in the form of a limited amount of Play-Doh. Now, these are the various options of what I may choose to produce with this Play-Doh. And let's say that of all these options, I like this green circle the best, so I chose this green circle here. Now, the moment I actualized this choice, I had to give up all the other options. And of those options, there was probably one that I wanted to make second to the green one, right? The one I liked second best. And let's say that it's the blue square over here. Now, this blue square over here now becomes something we call opportunity cost, which is the cost of making a choice. And I love the way that my econ teacher phrased it, which is next best alternative foregone. Basically, the idea is that when you make a choice, you're not just choosing and then getting something, you're also paying the cost of having given up that other option, because limited resources requires you to give up that other option. Now, goods like that green circle over here that have an opportunity cost are called economic goods, produced with scarce resources and thus has an opportunity cost. And this applies to most of the goods that we have. However, just to note that there are things like free goods that are not produced with scarce resources and that do not have an opportunity cost. And these are just things like fresh air, let's say. And although there's technically a limit to things like fresh air, it's not very scarce, so there really isn't an opportunity cost associated with it. So, sort of to sum up, we just learned what factors of production are, and what the economic problem is that we want everything, but we can't have everything due to a scarcity of resources, limited factors of production, which causes us to have to make a choice, and every time we make a choice, it produces an opportunity cost. And also, we just noted two types of goods, economic goods and free goods. So, that is the end of this video. And in the next video, we will cover the different choices we need to make in the production of a good and two different systems that exist as ways to answer those questions.